Welcome to Conversations with Sarah. Today, I'm joined by Mary Dalber to have a conversation about the healing properties of mediumship. Welcome, Mary.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited for two reasons. One, you are my first international guest, so that feels like a really big deal for me. So thank you so much for coming along. And two, I'm interested in mediumship, but I've never considered it as a self-care practice. So I'm really interested in hearing your philosophies and your approach to that. So I don't know, do you want to introduce a little bit about yourself so people can understand who you are and where it is that you're coming from with your point of view?
Oh, sure. So hi, everyone. So I'm a psychic medium and I'm also a life coach. And my practice is all about people finding healing, whatever way that's going to work for them. So a lot of times there's a lot of different ways that people can heal. From a mediumship standpoint, it's making that connection with a loved one that maybe just at a basic level you miss. It's someone that you were really close to and they've passed and you miss them, or someone that you need to have closure with or have questions answered. And a lot of times when I do readings with people and I work with people, having that connection and that closure is something that can be life-changing for them. One of the biggest questions I get from people is, are they mad at me? Are they mad at me because I didn't do this or I didn't do that, or I've done this since they've passed? And that's not how the spirits are. That's not how your ancestors are. So, yeah.
Okay, so I guess the first question would be, what is mediumship?
Oh, well, yeah, that's probably a better, probably a good way to start.
A good place to start.
So mediumship is doing connections with folks who have crossed over, who have passed away. That's the basic. As a medium, I am actually bridging the connection between the spirit world and the physical world. Okay.
What is a reading like then? What actually happens in that?
Yeah. So what I do is I'll sit down with somebody and I usually don't ask them to give me someone that they're looking for. I just want it to flow freely. So I will connect with the spirit world. And basically that means I just ask the spirit world to come closer. I'll say to them, we have Sarah here and she's asked to connect with you. And so then someone will come through. It could be, a male, a female, your grandma, your friends, your parent, whoever it is, child, sometimes it's child. And we just ask them to make sure that you will know who they are. So they'll show me who they are. They'll tell me who they are. And then I'll ask you, do you recognize this person? And you'll say, yep, that's my whoever, in my family. And then they'll come through with messages and all the time, it's all about love and connection and how much they want you to know that they're there for you.
Yeah. How do you experience that? Is that something that is like auditory? Is it something you hear? Is it just a sense? Is it something you see? That's the thing that I'm really curious about. That how do you experience that?
Yeah. So for me, I actually can see people and I see like film clips of things that are happening. So, the spirit will take me back to when the person's, 8 years old and they went to something special together.
Yeah.
So that, they'll do stuff like that. I also can hear them. So that's especially interesting for me for someone that, isn't a native English speaker. Sometimes I'll hear an accent or I'll hear just a different phrase that I wouldn't normally know in the US. And sometimes I can feel it. Like I've had people who have passed from, overdoses, and I can feel, I don't feel the overdose. But I'll feel that I'm really woozy and I'm, not in the right state for a minute, and then it disappears. So at least I can describe it to the person so they understand. But yeah, that can be really interesting. So I hear it, I feel it, I see it.
Yes, it's quite a sensory experience for you then. And that feels like that you must be able to bring quite a lot through of the sense of the person that you're connected with as well.
Right. That's why I love that, because you can really talk about someone's personality or how they interact with people or whether they like somebody or not. That sometimes is very funny because there'll be people who don't like the person's spouse and they'll come through and say, the person you're married to, not so much a fan. Like,
yeah. But I guess so that's quite affirming. If you knew that in life, then it really helps to know that that is that person and that is what they would say when they've passed over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I guess one of the questions that I'm interested in is what happens from your perspective, what happens to a loved one when they pass over?
Yeah, the nice thing I think is for the loved one is that they lose the physical body. So that gets left behind here. We have a ceremony around that, so a funeral, whatever it is. And that person loses all of the human experience from a physical standpoint only. So they don't have any more pain. They don't have any, their age is lifted, it's gone. So now when they go into the spirit world, they're just that beautiful soul. They have all the experiences knowing of the human experience. So they know that, you were connected to them. They know about what they did for work, all that. But now they have the freedom of not having the human body. And that's really beautiful, I think, because then they're not operating from a place of a human, whether they've been in pain, whether they've had a disease, whether that's all gone. And so now they can really just like love you even more because that's out of the way. So I find that experience really beautiful because, and sometimes, it's funny because someone will ask me, what is it like over there? And I'll ask the spirit, because I don't know, I'll say to the spirit, what's it like? And I had someone say to me once, it's more beautiful than you ever can imagine. And I don't know why that just stuck in my heart. Like, oh, that's just so, because you worry about your loved ones when they cross. You're afraid, like, well, are they okay? And when they ever said that to me, I was like, all right, I understand being afraid of death, but the afterlife, that sounds like vacation all the time.
And I think depending on your belief as well,
Right.
like we are all on a spiritual journey. We are, I think, soul spirit inhabiting a body while we're on this planet. So it's affirming, if you have that kind of perspective, to think that it is, we shed this body and we continue our journey on. And I love science, always bring science into everything. Like we're an energy being, so it makes for me complete sense that we would be an energy being within this body and move around, do whatever we're doing, and then when this body no longer serves us, we move into another plane, another state where we continue to be energy, just in a different form. And I don't know how that fits with your philosophies, or like how do you look at it that way? Do you look at it differently?
I completely agree with that. I think that we operate from that place of our soul, right? That energy, so we had to have something that housed that energy. So here we are in the body. And then, like you said, I think, I remember taking a class and they talked about how the soul's always learning, even when we've crossed. So we don't just have the human experience and learn there, and then we cross for a while and it stops. We actually continue to learn in the afterlife and look back on our life or whatever. And it's like, wow, that's really fascinating, because that energy continues to grow and to uplift and to evolve. So it's really this idea of never really stopping your growth and your elevation. I love that idea. So we just get to come down in the body every once in a while and hang out with everybody, I think. So.
And I think that feels like it makes sense to me, alongside my philosophies, that it is a learning journey, isn't it? And we're just in our physical body, that's one aspect of it, and there's so much more that goes on. So who benefits from getting readings in your perspective?
I think first and foremost, people who just miss somebody who's crossed. And I think that can be most of us. Folks that haven't had any closure, folks that have questions. I think that anybody can really benefit from, a connection with a loved one. If you haven't heard from them for a while, or you feel like they just, sometimes, let me say it this way. When someone crosses over, sometimes at the beginning, when they cross over, the person who's still left here will hear from them a lot, or they'll connect with them a lot. They'll say, oh, I saw a license plate with their name on it. I saw a number. And then that seems like it fades out. But what I think happens there is they just, we start moving on with our lives. And not that we don't remember them. It's just, we're looking at other things. We have to kind of get back to our day to day. So having a reading with somebody and reconnecting them knows that the love is still there. So I think anybody can benefit.
Yeah. So how do you see that? Because I'm imagining how that works on a self-care place. But for you as a practitioner, how do you see that healing working?
Yeah.
When someone has a reading?
Yeah, I think for us, it's when someone crosses, I think sometimes we can lose a piece of ourselves. And so when we connect with them, a piece of ourselves comes back, even for a while. It can be, you know, for that question that gets answered or that connection that's made can be life-changing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen people who, I remember there was a reading I did, and this woman, she had a kind of on and off relationship with her mother, and her mother had crossed, and she had gotten readings before, she said. And in the reading I gave her, I said to her, your mom's apologizing about the dog. I feel like she wants to say, I'm really sorry about the dog. And she said, oh my God, that's been sitting with me for like 25 years. Yeah. My mother gave away my dog, and because she was mad at me, and then she couldn't get the dog back. And so her apologizing was huge.
Yeah.
And she carried that for 25 years, you know, but that, like, knowing she was sorry, it just sort of lifted that piece.
It feels like it just makes that shift, doesn't it? And in being able to let go of something that you don't need to carry around anymore.
Right.
And wherever that comes from, that has value.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, for us, it could be someone hearing that on the outside may say, it was just a dog, you know, so what? But for her, it was like that thing that always stuck with her. And I also find that with people who, for example, they were away when someone crossed over, or they couldn't make it in time. That's a big one. Where folks say, you know, are they upset at me? And I've never had anybody come back and say, yeah, I'm terribly upset that you didn't make it when I was crossing. You know, they always say, don't worry about that. You were here for this, or you were part of my life, you know, for so many years. Like, why would I be upset about that? So I think the stuff we worry about as humans too, the folks in the afterlife don't worry about it as much. They don't count it. You know what I mean? They just don't, like, I'm going to keep a tally.
Yeah. Well, I imagine, because of the things I imagine, that these things become small because you see another part of the puzzle. You see a bigger picture when we're in that space of our existence, that these little things kind of don't matter so much. But you perhaps recognize that people still live in the human body experience. They are big. They are the big things. They are the things that can hold us back and cause pain and cause worry and feed into our insecurities. So, I mean, I completely see how hearing that someone isn't mad about a thing, or they're sorry that they did a thing, can be freeing and allow you to move forward and change perspective about things and open doors to other spaces that you can go and exist in, and not kind of have to carry that bag around with that thing in, that you can let it go, put it down, let it go, move on.
Right. And sometimes having someone else say it, like, so if you go to someone for a reading and the medium says it, that the person saying it, even though the person has probably come to you in a dream or has like showed you signs, you still sometimes don't, as the sitter, as we call it, or the person getting the reading, you don't believe it when the spirit on the other side is saying, no, really, I'm cool with things, it's fine. But sometimes we need to have someone else say that to us, that there's a confirmation. That's a lot of work that mediums do, is that we give confirmation of things too. So it's kind of funny. I'm like, you got the direct line, but meanwhile you need me to tell you sometimes to say, you know, yes, they told me this and this is what happened, and it's okay.
Isn't that life though? Don't we often need to hear things a few times from a few different sources before we actually believe what we already know?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you find, like, as a medium, that it's a healing process for you as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, there's times when I talk to people and I bring them together for those moments, and to see someone in front of me, it transform, it gives it. I know this sounds weird, but it gives me hope that we can continue to connect and to heal in all different kinds of ways, even if someone's crossed over. Like, that's not the ending. And I think for me, that helps a lot to know that, because I've had loss in my life. I've lost people very important to me. And to know that it continues, and it proves it to me too, that there's still love on the other side. That's always very healing to me. But also to see someone like right in front of you transform is just, it's incredible. It's very much an honor. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would agree with that, sort of as a therapist and the therapy work that I do. There's something so joyful in knowing that you've played a small part in someone's healing, that you've been able to help them move forward in some way or another. It is both like honoring and humbling all at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Yeah. I, because it's funny how I started doing this work was I was reading someone from a tarot perspective, and her husband came through who had crossed over. And I was like, I don't know if I can do, what's going on. And it was a really powerful message, because she was worried about her son, and that's why she came in to see me. But it really just feels like it's this work that's so sacred. When you have that, when you make that connection, it's just so sacred. And it's something that I think people should experience just for their own like heart, just for their own heart and their soul. So yeah, I think that's the amazing part, is that I get to be that connection. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I wonder is like, how did you sort of accept the gift, for want of a better word, or accept your experience as real and not doubt your own experience?
Yeah. So after I had that one, when I told that story about the woman who came in and her husband came through and they were talking about the son, about an hour later, a person who just did all mediumship. I worked at a store at the time, a metaphysical store. And she came in and I said, I think I just had a mediumship experience. And she's like, oh, tell me about it. So I told her. She goes, oh yeah, honey, you're a medium. Here's the name of my teacher. You need to study with her. And I was like, what? Wait, what? No, I'm like, no, that's not me. And she said, oh no, that's kind of how you get picked. And I called it the teacher, and she said to me, well, let's see what, come on in and let's see what you do and how it happens. And there's just been examples of things where there's such specific information that I'm like, all right, this is, I look at it this way. The spirit world has had this person come to me and is connected with me in such a way that I can bring that information through, that if I just let the spirit world do their thing and not get myself in the way, it works out really well. So for me, that's why I think accept it, because I just get out of the way.
Yeah.
Once
that probably is the answer.
Right.
Because I do believe that we all have some level of being able to connect. I think we all have that. I think as children, we tap into it so much easier. And as adults, and that as we, progress through what we think the world should be and how we should operate within the world, that we kind of lose touch with these other aspects of ourselves. Like our brains are powerful machines and are capable of so much stuff. The way that our heart operates, is just makes no sense, really. Right. If you really think about it, there's so much in the world that we can't see, we can't touch, and we accept is real. So for me, it is like, I think we all have this ability on some level, but don't trust our instincts. We don't trust the things that we are connected with. So that's why I was really interested. So like, wow, how did, when you have this experience, you kind of just trust and go, yeah, this is the thing that I believe that I can do now, and share that with other people.
Right. Yeah, it's I absolutely agree. I say that for me, it's just I'm working out a muscle more than somebody else. It's like a bodybuilder, I'm going to the gym every day in the mediumship world. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Anybody can get connections from the other side. I agree. So I really feel like if we just get out of our own way and we don't explain things away that happens, then we can have those connections and have that information and feel the joy from the spirit world so much more, and the love and the, just the applause that they have for us. Really, they're there cheering us on. And if we can not question it and say, oh, that's no way that could have happened. And spirit world is really intelligent, smarter than we are. And so if we let them do their thing, we're going to be much happier and we're going to feel so much more joy. I truly believe that.
And I love that. I love that you're coming from a perspective of love and joy, that it is, that it's something that you're bringing in to help people and to work with people, for them to be able to be in a space of more love and joy. Because I mean, I have to acknowledge there is the flip side to all of this work. And I don't know about in America, but in England we very much have to say this is for entertainment purposes only, blah blah blah, and all of this other stuff. And I guess there are situations where people can be not working in the best interest of the person that they're working with. So just from speaking with you today and sort of the little peek around of your socials that I've had, I love that it is that connection, it's joyful, it's that sort of healing space, as opposed to that sort of murkier, darker areas that can go on. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm in service to them. I'm in service to the people here. That's how I feel. I'm in service. I know they're out there, the murky ones. I know they're out there, and that's a shame, because I think everybody should have a wonderful experience with this. There shouldn't be people out there that are just taking advantage of people's grief. But I think they get exposed at some point. There's something that happens that they get exposed, or at the very least, people, start to let others know about the reputation of that person. And the spirit world just says, oh no, we're not talking to you anymore. And that's it. So but it is out there. It is. And it breaks my heart that people have had experiences where their grief has been exploited. It's just, it's brutal. I mean, that's just the only way I can describe it. It's brutal. Yeah. It's awful.
And it's not just mediumship. And I think that's the thing to acknowledge. It's in every profession, every kind of helping profession. People come in, I think, for one of two reasons. We come to help and help people heal, or we come to exploit the people that need help in healing. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't know who you're dealing with until you get there. So it is really important to look at like reviews and get word of mouth recommendations, and trust your instinct when you connect with someone that they might not have ill intent, but they might not be the right person for you. So I think that's a really important thing as well to kind of, since we're talking about it, acknowledge and bring up.
I agree. It's funny because we say as mediums too, that there'll be certain people who will come to certain mediums. They have to like, and I'm talking about the spirit world folks. Yeah. There's some people that'll come to certain mediums and won't go to other ones because they just know. So I've, done readings for people and they're like, my grandmother's never come through before. And I'm like, well, right place, right time. I was just in the right place at the right time. But yeah, the spirit world's really smart. They're like, I don't think I want to talk to that person. So they have their feelings too. But yeah, I think there's, like you said, in every industry, there's someone out there that's like, oh, let me be a show and let me, get someone to think that I'm this great, whatever it is. I'm a great medium, I'm a great whatever. And then the person comes out sometimes hurt, more damaged. I mean, it's awful. I'd like, fingers crossed, I'd like to think those are few and far between. But I think, if like you said, reviews, talking to people, and most mediums are just anybody. I don't know about you, but I know that if someone called me and had questions about, can you tell me about how you do your readings? Can you tell me about what your training is? Whatever. Sure. I'll talk about it. I don't have anything to hide. Yeah. And if I'm not the right person for you, absolutely find someone who is the right person. I'd rather you get with the right person and have that great experience than to come to me and feel awkward. There's no reason for that.
No, and I think that's one of the key things, really. Most therapists are kind of coming from a place of, I want you to have the best experience, are the ones that want you to have a best experience. And it's about the healing work, not necessarily, I have to be the therapist that you work with. That's one of the things I love about the podcast, is being able to connect with all these practitioners and kind of go, hey, like, you might not want to come and talk to me, but look at this amazing thing that's going on here, or this amazing thing that's going on there. I'm learning so much about things that I already thought I knew loads about. So it's brilliant. And I love that I can share that with people that are listening. And if one person can listen to one episode and take something away that helps them heal, I feel like that's me doing what I need to do in life. I don't know about you with what you do. That's kind of what's going on for me.
Yeah, it's the right person at the right time in the right place who heard the right thing. Oh, absolutely. I think, because we don't live in a vacuum. Like it's not just our experiences. We interact with people all the time. So if I have this great experience and then I go and I talk to somebody just about like what I've learned, not even to say I've had, I went to this person, I had a great experience, but just something's changed in me. It touches them, who touches someone else, who touches someone else. So yeah, it might not be at that moment you're with that person, but they get these other experiences that affect everybody else anyway, because we're all interconnected. So
absolutely. Yeah. Which is why it can continue when people pass over into the spirit world.
Exactly.
And that feels like a very good place to bring it to a close. Does that feel all right for you? Is this an okay place to end?
It feels great to me that the time has flown. I'm really,
oh
my God.
I get really into what we're doing. Is there anything that you would like to leave people with that are listening, or do you feel that you've said everything that you would like to say today?
If there's room, what I would like to say to folks is there's no reason to be afraid to explore that side. If you had a not so great relationship with someone, if you want to have some closure, when you're ready, if it's the right time and healthy for you, make that connection, however you make that connection to your ancestor. Or if you just need to know that they love you, it's so joyful for them to be able to connect with you. And it's so joyful for you to enjoy that process. So if it's the right time, it's the right time. Don't be afraid. When you're with the right person, they'll hold your hand through the process, and the spirit world is there for you too.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and being my guest. I've really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's listening. I hope that you have enjoyed today's episode. To connect, find out more about me and my guest, follow at SRTT Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And I'll be back next Wednesday with a new guest. Until then, stay curious and be kind to yourself.